Watch out for cash money, cause we landed down. Money making is my thing, cause I'm trying to be rich, trying to put away meals. That's why I'm in the studio dropping hits, dropping rap after rap like you sell key after key. Backed up by the best fresh, dropping beat after beat. My clique is the hot boys, best believe we so high and dangerous if we ain't beef with the whole block. No fading us at all, player, cause we roll too deep. With AKs off safety, knocking busters off their feet. I go by the name the BG. I ride on chrome in the 98 Lexi S3. I'll bust it down for baby on this B3. Because I know one thing, he'll do the same for me. We family, cash money is the homie, better get a Navy. So if you ever play heavy, look here, it ain't gravy. Don't try to knock me, player, cause I'll leave your head stale. Light you up real good, you will never get well. Cash money is a homie, better get a Navy. So if you ever play heavy, for you it ain't gravy. Cash money is a homie, better get a Navy. So if you ever play heavy, for you it ain't gravy. I got a path that you don't want.
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, Timothy J. Jones, and yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast, and thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Special shout out to you, and if this is the final show that you listen to before the Thanksgiving holiday, I want to wish you and yours a happy Thanksgiving. After we know that Thanksgiving is in a couple of days, and also the Saints Week 13 matchup versus the Los Angeles Rams is as well. We're going to be talking a little bit about that game, but the topic of conversation for this episode will be the Saints' next head coach. And there's been a lot of talk, and people have been talking about Darren Rizzy and the job he's done as the interim coach, and can he turn this into a permanent job, or do the Saints go and they look outside of the organization? They go look at some of these high-profile head coaching free agents that are out there, the ones that are on the lips of a lot of prognosticators and a lot of organizations willing to acquire their services. We're going to be talking about that. But before we get into it, I want to give a special shout out to everybody that came over to the NFC South Roundtable. We talked a little bit about the Week 12 matchups. Of course, we know the Saints were on a bye week, but we still covered the game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Giants, and also the Carolina Panthers, giving everything that they could possibly give to the world champion Kansas City Chiefs. And of course, we have the preview show that's going to be coming up in a couple of days. We broke that down, that we recorded that immediately following the live stream. So that should be with you all for should be with you in a couple of days. And I'm asking everybody, if you have not already, go to youtube.com, search NFC South Roundtable. It is a live stream every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern right here on YouTube. But the Saints' next head coach, this is what a lot of us have been talking about, been discussing. During the bye week, I really wasn't as active. There's a lot of things going on for me professionally. We were doing a little bit of some transitioning at the radio station that I work at. A long time a music director, operations coordinator. Shouts out to Mr. Ernie Hilton, my mentor, somebody that taught me everything that I know. He retired this past week. Now, I'm trying to get everything together, staying focused, because I'm the guy now, and it's kind of different, man, when you don't have that mentor to lean on. So I'm kind of dealing with that. So I kind of took the week to kind of decompress away from football, mostly focusing on Coastal Carolina. I was out there at that game, but now we're back, man. And, I got time and opportunities to kind of think about the Saints situation, the state of the Saints, no pun intended, about, the head coaching job. And of course, there have been polls that I put up, things that, have been, I guess, conversation starters about what the Saints need to do. And you have people that are excited about what Darren Rizzy is doing with the New Orleans Saints in the interim role. And I can understand that. I can understand why Saints fans are excited about Darren Rizzy being the next head coach. But I just want people to kind of pump their brakes a little bit and understand that you don't want to be a prisoner of the moment. I feel like in the case of Darren Rizzy, this has to be a situation where you got to allow him to kind of see this thing through for us to get a larger sample size. We don't want to fall into that trap like we did the first 2 weeks of the season when the Saints were blowing out teams and we just thought that we just needed to call Ticketmaster and just, get our tickets to the Super Bowl. I just feel like when it comes to Darren Rizzy, he is doing a great job, and hopefully he can maintain the momentum that the Saints are picking up. But I don't know, man. I can't just for certain say that Darren Rizzy should be the lock to be the Saints' next head coach. And I don't think you should either. But, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do. I understand what the team looking like. I understand the energy that he brings. I understand that he's the complete antithesis of what Dennis Allen was when it comes to being animated on the sidelines, when it comes to being that soundbite during press conferences. I get all that. But I just think that the Saints still should do their due diligence. And there are some really good qualified candidates out there that I feel like the Saints need to maybe talk to and could possibly be the next head coach to lead this team through these difficult times they have been in since Drew Brees stepped down in 2021. But, I just think that when it all comes down to it, they just got to make sure that they find the right guy. Now, first, everybody knows how I feel about what Darren Rizzy is doing. I'll go back to when the Saints fired Dennis Allen. We were all, excited and happy at the fact that they fired Dennis Allen. Not the fact that somebody lost their job. From that particular standpoint, it sucks. But at the end of the day, we knew that Dennis Allen wasn't giving the Saints what is needed in order for them to be a contender. He was too passive. It seemed like the inmates were running the asylum, not calling these guys prisoners, but it's just a figure of speech. And it just didn't seem like he really had his hand on the team, and he really didn't understand the fan base. There was never a connection between the players and Dennis Allen or the fan base and Dennis Allen. And now you have Darren Rizzy, who is, a guy that is full of fire, a guy full of energy, someone you can buy into, someone that's not boring. You find yourself captivated in the press conferences that he's a part of. It just seems like there's a different type of energy, and you can tell it from the players too. So to me, I feel like this game against the Rams could really help the case of Darren Rizzy, because you're playing against the Atlanta Falcons, and yes, you want to beat your division rivals, and it made us feel good. And then you played against the Cleveland Browns, who were a bad football team, still is, even though, that was a great game they played against the Steelers in Cleveland in the blizzard. But nobody is going to give you a job based on that. I feel like going up against a Super Bowl winning coach, a guy who has been to multiple Super Bowls in Sean McVay, beating a quarterback of the caliber of Matthew Stafford, going up against some high quality wide receivers in Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, guys like that, and be able to neutralize them or be able to beat them. I feel like that would make a strong case going forward for Darren Rizzy. Now, if we find ourselves kind of in the same situation where you're basically beating low-hanging fruit and you go up against contenders, I think you pretty much have your answer here. So I think that the Saints players are going to play motivated because they want to keep Darren Rizzy on. They want to make his case as compelling as possible and make it as tough as possible for upper management of the New Orleans Saints to make a tough decision with Darren Rizzy. But there are some guys out there that I feel like if the Saints get their hands on, they should be excited about. Now, there is one coach that everybody's been talking about. He has been with the New Orleans Saints before in the past, and that is Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions right now. We know the Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFL right now. They are blowing teams out. They're looking good offensively and defensively. They're looking like they're a shoo-in to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. I mean, I know that the playoffs is a completely different beast, but they look really good. And of course, when teams are starting to be successful, you start looking at the coaches, you start looking at the coordinators, and you want a little bit of that success. So you start to maybe pull from those trees. And Aaron Glenn, to me, I like him. I think that, you know, he's a good coach. But I don't know if Aaron Glenn is what the Saints need. And let me tell you why. Because I'm not saying that he's Dennis Allen, but he's Dennis Allen-ish, meaning that he's not that type of guy that's going to give you the same level of energy like a Darren Rizzy does. He's more of that teaching type. He probably kind of reminds me, if I'm talking about a coaching style, maybe that of a Lovie Smith or a Tony Dungy, you know, knows about the X's and the O's, probably can put together the Willies and the Joes, but is not going to, you know, be that guy that is going to be on the sidelines, really, you know, going in on the referees, really going in game time. You know, he's more like that teacher type. And I just think that when you get away from that, or you're coming off that, I just think that maybe you just need to go in a different direction. And quite frankly, I'm just tired of the Sean Payton layovers. Like, no disrespect to Sean Payton and his coaching staff. He has gotten some guys jobs. He has gotten some guys that are really good at their profession, offensively and defensively. But I just think that it's time to turn the page. I think that it's time for the New Orleans Saints to do something a little bit different. I understand that we have a tendency of, when things are great, we try to hold on to that. And this is what the Saints have been victims of the last couple of years. They have been holding on to the layovers, holding on to the dream that was set by Sean Payton. Well, Sean Payton is he's the head coach of the Denver Broncos. He is the guy that is trying to help the AFC West team, Denver Broncos, make the playoffs and make them a contender. And I just think that it's like still wearing the clothes of your ex-girlfriend. You know, you get what I'm saying? Like, still wearing the sweater of your ex-boyfriend. Like, throw that joint away. You know what I'm saying? They ain't coming back. You know, like, it just makes you look sad and desperate. You know, like, I'm just being real here. The Saints need to turn the page and try to do something a little bit different. I understand that uncertainty scares us. In life, when we're not sure about something, it scares us. When we get away from familiar territory, there's that nervous reaction to that. Can I succeed in these elements? Can I, be able to thrive in the unexpected? But you never know until you branch out, until you actually go out there and see what you're actually made of. And I just think that the Saints need to do that. I think that they need to find the best the best coach possible to help them. And if Darren Rizzy just so happens to be that guy, great. But don't just give Darren Rizzy the job because the team responds to him. Don't just give him the job because the locker room is different. Don't just give it to him just because, these players are going out there and they look a different way than they did with Dennis Allen. Because you don't want to fall into that situation like it is in Vegas, where Antonio Pierce was the interim coach and he was the fiery guy. He was the energetic guy. He was the one dapping guys up after, they win a game, coming into the locker room, giving them high fives. And he looked the part. And it looked like he was what was needed for the Raiders. But now you look at this team this season and they're going through growing pains and tough times, and he doesn't have the capacity to get them over said hump. So all I'm saying is just be careful at what you're actually seeing. And like I said, I'm not knocking Darren Rizzy, because if Darren Rizzy can go out here and run this table, then I think that you have to seriously consider him. I think if he goes out and the Saints beat the Rams in this game, I think that you have to really start to take him serious. But just because you're taking him serious doesn't mean that you don't go out here and do your due diligence. This is the mistake that the Saints made last time, Who Dat Nation. They sleptwalked through those interview process, and they got themselves Dennis Allen, and it was a disaster. So you don't want to be in the same situation again. So I'm looking at guys like, the usual suspects. I'm looking at Ben Johnson. I'm looking at Aaron Glenn. I'm looking at, the defensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Chargers. I want to say his name is Mike Minter, if I'm not mistaken. I'm looking, even at Belichick. I'm looking at, some of these other guys that are out here. You got to be able to turn a page. Now, of course, the number one guy I would say would be Ben Johnson. I think that Ben Johnson is the number one guy on a lot of people's lists. Well, maybe Darren Rizzy is number one on a lot of Saints fans' lists because of how they're playing right now. But I think that Ben Johnson is a guy that you definitely would bring in and would provide instant success to the New Orleans Saints. And, I understand that he has his pick of the litter. He can go where he wants. And, some people are saying that he doesn't want to go to an organization like the Saints where they have so many millions of dollars over the cap. And why would anybody want to go to the Saints at this particular point? Look, I understand that standpoint, but also understand that the Saints, they have players on the team that will get behind a coach that knows what the heck they're doing. I think the disconnect happened with Dennis Allen because the players realized that he wasn't the right guy for the job, and players started to check out. And you can really see that he didn't know what he was doing, because when Darren Rizzy kind of made a few tweaks and did some things, just a few, that Dennis Allen wasn't doing, you've seen success start to happen in that aspect. So I just think that, Ben Johnson would consider the New Orleans Saints because of the organization. The organization will give him an opportunity, and they will be patient about it. We know that the Dennis Allen situation was because of Gail Benson and the fan base and them just being disgusted with him, and also the players inside of the locker room. We know about the meeting that Gail Benson had with those players. And, I think that played a role. So it wasn't just, the fans were just upset and they was booing Dennis Allen. I think that if Gail Benson had a conversation with those players and the language was like, yeah, we can win with Dennis Allen, I think that he still would have been with the team. So I think that this was one of those situations where, the players played a role in this. So I think that Ben Johnson, to me, would be that top priority. And I'll get into, my thoughts on Bill Belichick, him saying that he wants to get back into coaching, as well as some of these other coaches out there that may get fired but could land with another team. But I want to thank everybody in the chat right now. And I want to say, just before we start reading the chat, this show is brought to you by BETUS. You can sign up today, get up to 150% on your first deposit and up to 125% on your second and third deposit, up to $2,000. You can download the BETUS app or go to the website, use the promo code YouTube150. All right, let me go ahead and read some of your comments here. And we'll start with Slim. Slim says, and we need to take that GM position away from Mickey, even though he ain't getting fired. Yeah, I think that it's time to go in a different direction, Slim. When I look at Mickey Loomis, I just see a guy that is comfortable in his position, knowing that he can't get fired. Sometimes that can make you lax. Sometimes it can make you don't have a sense of urgency when it comes to your team, because you don't have to worry about the pressures of me performing year after year or I'm getting fired. I mean, we know more than likely that Mickey Loomis is going to step down on his own accord before they take away that GM position from him. Even though it might be one of those cases where Gail Benson wants him to step down and forces him to step down, and they have a press conference like he decides to step down, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. And it's unfortunate, but at this point, we just got to hope that he makes the right decisions, or Gail starts to kind of jump in and intervene with her team the way that she did when it came to Dennis Allen. And I think that if the Saints end up beating the Rams, to me, I think that's extremely telling when it comes to Mickey Loomis, because Mickey Loomis went on record and says it was the injuries and not Dennis Allen. And I think over the last couple of weeks, you have to concede, if you are in your right mind, that this team just didn't want Dennis Allen to be the coach anymore. They didn't want him to be the voice. And it doesn't make Mickey Loomis look good, him going to bat with Dennis Allen after we've seen this over the last couple of weeks. I just posted my poll post in the chat, says Jerry. Make sure y'all take that. Says, facts, we got to do something different. We need new blood in the organization from top to bottom. I agree. It can't be the same old status quo every time, especially when you have seen, little chinks in the armor. I think that you have to adjust accordingly. I think the worst thing that you can do is see issues that are looming and you just become and continue to act oblivious to the fact. So I think that you see that things needed to change when you fired Dennis Allen. And I just think that you'll be a fool not to acknowledge that and take this opportunity to maybe turn the page and focus on a new regime, a new frontier that is Saints football with a new head coach. Let's see. Black and Gold Network says, to me, Rizzy 2 games into a 8-game audition, like what I see so far, but got to see what happens in the other 6 games before making any decisions on him one way or the other. Yeah, I agree. I just think that sometimes we become prisoner of the moment. When we're watching a game, it's the greatest run we ever seen. It's the greatest pass we ever seen. It's the greatest catch we ever seen, because we get so captivated in the moment. And I just think that right now in the moment, Darren Rizzy has the Saints on a 2-game winning streak, coming off a 7-game losing streak with a coach that nobody wanted. And he's coming in as the breath of fresh air, so I just think that he is right now the guy that is, being the healer of the New Orleans Saints between the organization and the fan base right now. And we know that the healing process is because he is coaching a team and they're finding success winning football games, and they're winning football games in ways they have lost and ripped our hearts out week after week. In those close games, not being able to close, not being able to finish, right? And, it's good that he's doing that. But like I said, we have to be careful not to be prisoners of the moment. We got to allow this thing to play out like Black and Gold Network was alluding to. We got to be able to let this thing see itself out. And if it turns out to be something special, then, yeah, you adjust accordingly. But I'm not ready right now to just throw my hat in the ring in support of Darren Rizzy here. I just think that you have to see what transpires from now till the end of the season, and then we can make an assessment. But right now, I'm looking at some qualified candidates that could come in and change the misfortunes of this franchise. I want the Saints to get back to consistent. Hear what I'm saying? Consistent playoff football. Not, we just go to the playoffs this year and then don't go back no more for the next 2 to 3. I'm talking about continual success, building on the momentum year after year, getting draft picks that can actually hit the ground running right away, getting a front office where they can select players kind of similar to the team that they're actually going to play this Sunday in the Rams, finding those 3rd round and 4th round gems, and in the case of Puka Nacua, 5th round gems, finding guys that can actually make an immediate impact on your football team because you have the right coaches and you got the right personnel around them to succeed. That is what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for, just a moment in time. If I can get, some long lasting success from the New Orleans Saints, that would be great, because, that is what I feel like we need to be looking for. We don't just need to be looking for just good moments, okay? I mean, good moments are great. If you can catch lightning in a bottle, that's wonderful. But I would rather see the Saints be contenders for years to come, seeing them in the playoffs, being like the Chiefs, winning 10 games or being consistently Super Bowl and playoff contenders each and every year. If they can do that, then I would be happy. I'm not just trying to, win a couple of games and feel good about myself so I can talk noise to some Falcon fans or some Bucks fans or some Panthers fans. That's cool and all, but I want to see continuous success, not just a few games at a time. And, I'm feeling good on Sunday. Then next Sunday, I might not feel the same way. Corey says, I want nothing more than to end the season with a winning record so I can get to see Carr another year. And I'm pretty sure there's some sarcasm in that, Corey. Or I think Corey is, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's an Atlanta Falcon fan. So, of course, you want to see Derek Carr because you know that Derek Carr, even though he has been playing pretty decent this season, you know that more than likely the Saints are going to be middle of the road, average football team when he is the quarterback. So I can understand why you would feel that way. But look, I just want to see the Saints grow. I just want to see them be able to draft better. I just want to see these players develop better. I'm just tired of watching players, like Zach Bond, players like Trey Hendrickson get out the door and be more successful with their next team than they were with the New Orleans Saints. I just want to see these guys hit the ground running and be like the teams that we see, like the Packers, like the Ravens, where you draft these guys play well for 3 or 4 years, and then they get that second contract with said organization. If the Saints can do that, then I feel like that is going to get you out of the hole. I think that success is going to come when it comes to the New Orleans Saints is you drafting well, because you have issues with your salary cap. So if you can actually draft or win the draft and get these players that can make an immediate impact, kind of similar to what you did in 2017. Now, I'm not expecting everybody that you draft to make an impact, but let's just say out of 100%, maybe 75% of the players that you draft make an impact. Rather it's offensively, defensively, special teams. I think that would be a plus. That is how you're going to get yourself out of this situation. Not, such and such is a free agent now, we need to sign him. No, the Saints need to work on developing their players so they can get themselves out of this situation. You get yourself out of this situation by getting really good developers as coaches and get players that will be able to absorb the information to play their absolute best right away. That is what's going to get the Saints out of this situation, folks. Pastor Timothy Moore says, shout out to the Who Dat Nation from Houston. Awesome job, my brother. Enjoyed the show. Well, Pastor, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. And thank you for stopping by. It's always a blessing to have great individuals like yourself stop by, man. It's the time of Thanksgiving this week right here, but I'm extremely thankful for wonderful folks like yourselves that stop by and check out the podcast and have made this podcast a success over the last 7 seasons. I really do appreciate it, man. Y'all mean a lot to me, and I thank you all for your comments and your interactions to make this show what it is. Let's see, and G for Coach. Talking about Jerry G. I wouldn't be objective to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he's anything like he is when the Saints lose on the sidelines, I don't think you're gonna worry about him looking passive aggressive. You know what I'm saying? He'll be going at the referees every single game. So you got my vote, Jerry. You got my vote. Be nice if AK and Taysom can run through the Rams like Saquon did on Sunday. Yeah, Barbara, look, I want people to understand this, and you'll get a little bit more of that if you actually check out the NFC South Roundtable. You'll get a little bit more of what I'm saying. I expound on it a little bit more when I'm breaking down the Saints and the Rams. But I just feel like watching that Rams game, and I watched the entire game when they played against Philly. I think that game gave people a false sense of reality of what the Rams actually are as a football team. Sometimes we look at a team and maybe the fact that we played them like the Saints played the Eagles and it came down to a few plays. The Eagles are not the same football team they were when they played the Saints. They're just not. They're a better football team, and they're going to be a contender, man. Guys are starting to play better. Some of those young rookies out there like Cooper DeJohn is playing well. Quinn Mitchell, he's being a lockdown corner. You got Jalen Carter. He's up there living up to his potential. They have one of the best offensive lines in football. And not to mention you have Saquon Barkley, who is extremely motivated after he got a phone call. The disrespect, and even call a man into the office, called this man on the phone and said that they weren't going to re-sign him. Basically made it seem like he wasn't even worth their time, like the dude was washed. I feel like he has something to prove. So he's motivated. And you also have Jalen Hurts, who doesn't have to be the guy that carries the football team. You got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. They got talent. And I just think that when people watched that game, they probably looked at it and said, man, the Rams are a bad football team. They can't stop the run. If you think that the Rams playing against the Eagles are the same Rams that are going to go into the Superdome this Sunday and play the Saints, you're sadly mistaken. And I just think that the Rams are a football team that is they do some really good things, and they confuse the New Orleans Saints. And we know that the Saints secondary is shaky and spotty, to say the least. We know what happened the last time Alontae Taylor went up against the Rams defense. The Rams offense. He was like a deer in the headlights. It got so bad he got benched. So these guys are still young. They're still inexperienced. And as is still Matthew Stafford on the other side of the football. And you still got Puka Nacua. And you also got Cooper Kupp and Robinson and all these other guys, Tyler Higbee. So they got some talent, man. And, I just think that's why I'm saying, Barber, if the Saints can somehow get this win, I think that you really have to start looking at Darren Rizzy as a contender. I really do. I really do. But I do think that they need to be able to run the football against the Rams. Alvin Kamara and using Taysom, and I don't know if Jamal Williams will be back or not, but I just think that you have to be able to use the running backs in this game. I think that there'll be opportunities for them to take shots down the field if they can run the football. But I don't expect for the Saints to run the football against the Rams like Saquon did against the Rams. I just think that the offensive line of the Eagles is one of the best in the league. Saquon Barkley is just on another level right now. And I just think that the Eagles are one of the best teams in football right now. I just think that they kind of slowly start to creep up there after everybody was talking about Nick Sirianni being on a hot seat. And I just think that the narrative of Sirianni being on a hot seat, people just don't want to concede because the narrative has been out there for weeks as if the Eagles aren't going to be very good. But they have turned the corner, and they are a much better football team. So this is going to be a tough game for the Saints playing against the Rams. I think the Rams, just like the Saints, they're very, very close in their division, and nobody's running away with their division. We've seen the Seattle Seahawks beat the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona going into that game, they had the division lead, and I just think that the Rams feel like they can actually still make some noise. So just like the Saints feel like they can creep up in the division, so can the Rams. So this is going to be a tough game for both teams, because both teams understand what is at hand, but it's not going to be easy for the Saints. Tim, do you think there will be a shuffle in the front office? Chemo, I do feel like there'll be some shuffle in the front office. I just think that you can't keep things the same, regardless of how Darren Rizzy does. Right now, these coaches, they're fighting for their jobs too. You got to keep that in mind. The performance and the coaching that they do going forward can be an indicator if they can actually keep their job or not. But I do feel like you need to shake some things up in the front office. I would honestly consider changing out Jeff Ireland as the scout, the head of scouting. I would probably maybe add somebody else to that room, someone with a reputation to help find those diamonds in the rough. That's why I said I would be looking, Chemo, at teams like the Packers, trying to pull from their front office, teams like the Rams, trying to pull from their front office, teams like the Ravens, trying to pull from their front office, teams who have a reputation of finding those diamonds in the rough and finding those players that can make an immediate impact. That is what I'm looking for. I don't think that you keep things the same, because I just feel it's just being absolutely ridiculous if you do, because for years now we've seen the Saints whiff on draft picks. And yes, there's been a few little diamonds in the rough that you can actually choose from, but for more times than not, they've been whiffing. They've been whiffing on these draft picks. And I don't know, man. You have to start to ask the question also, Chemo. I can understand the New Orleans Saints in this regard. Are those players really that bad, or what Dennis Allen was asking them to do made them look bad? Because I'm looking at some of these players that the Saints get, and they go to other teams and they thrive. Like, I was looking at Zach Bond play for the Eagles on Sunday night. Zach Bond, according to Pro Football Focus, is ranked second in his division out of 82 guys. I'm going to say that again. Zach Bond, who the Saints had as a rotational guy, a sometime guy, and mostly playing on special teams, is ranked second in the entire NFL out of 82 people that play his position. I mean, so I'm just wondering, like, maybe they're not utilizing them or not. But all in all, I just think that the New Orleans Saints need some new blood when it comes to scouting inside of that room, because there's been a lot of misses in that room. There've been a lot of misses in that room. So hopefully, they can figure something out, because what they're doing is not going to help them, especially since you millions of dollars over the cap. This week, I am thankful for men like you even exist, TJ. Well, Josh, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that, and thank you for those kind words, man. I appreciate that. It says Big Bag Thursday is approaching. Yeah, man, that's why you got to be out there jogging. You got to be doing those exercises, man, to be able to put on a little bit of that weight from eating all that turkey and dressing and and sweet potato pies and whatnot. But yeah, Thanksgiving is always a great time a great time where you get to meet up with your family, your cousin them, and talk about some of the old days. And, if you're an OG, as I'm slowly becoming, watching some of the young cats out there do some of the same things I did with my little cousins and brothers and sisters growing up, everything just comes full circle. But it's a fun time, man. Anytime you get together with family, the people that you love, the people that you admire, the people that mean more to you than anything in this world, it's always a plus, man. And there's always some great football being played on Thursday. Why are we spending high draft picks on injured players, and why are we drafting first round talent on potential non-starting quality? That's a good question, Hemisphere. I wish I had the answer for you, and I think that's where we all are just kind of baffled when it comes to the Saints draft selection. I just think that they just need something different. They need something different inside of that front office. They need a different voice in there. If you're going to keep some guys around, maybe bring some other individuals up in there so we can get some fresh thoughts and fresh views up in there. I just think that when you're around familiar foes, familiar people, you're familiar with the way that they think, you're familiar with the way that they walk, talk, and all that. And you start to think alike. And I just think that maybe you need to outsource a little bit. Get yourself someone that's not going to be like, that's a good idea. Probably think a little longer and ponder and be like, okay, that's a good idea. But what if we did X, Y, Z? Sometimes you need that. So hopefully they can actually add something to it, so they won't be able to, won't be making these same mistakes over and over again. Everyone's sorry for almost losing to the Panthers. Yeah, he said everyone's sorry for almost losing to the Panthers. Not me, man. Look, I already told y'all, man. I ain't got nothing bad to say about the Panthers this season. I ain't got nothing bad to say about Bryce Young this season. I mean, the moment where they beat the Saints and the next day that Dennis Allen got fired, I have nothing bad to say about Bryce Young. As a matter of fact, you're probably never going to hear me say anything bad about Bryce Young probably ever again, unless they playing the Saints or something like that. I mean, to me, that man is out here doing God's work, if you ask me. All right. I mean, he has he has coaches getting fired and organizations looking sideways at coaches that don't need to be coaches. So I mean, I watched that game from start to finish, them playing against Kansas City. I thought that they played formidable. I think that they shocked a lot of people, them being in that game. And that's one of those cases where you end up winning, even though you're losing. Lost the game. You end up winning, although you lost the game, I should say. But yeah, I ain't got nothing bad to say about it. I mean, if Bryce Young didn't go out there and beat the Saints, Dennis Allen would still be up his thing, still be in here fumbling it up and making us feel really, really terrible about our football team. And we have to watch them ho-hum press conferences from a guy that just don't have the answers anymore. So to me, Bryce Young out here doing guys work. So you'll never hear me say anything negative about Bryce Young unless he playing against the Saints. And then all bets are off. Move Loomis and kick scouting department to the curb. Yeah, I think that the scout department definitely needs an overhaul. Getting rid of Bicky Loomis to me would be a solution, but Barbara, we know that's not going to happen because of his connections with the higher ups, his position as a higher up. I don't see that happening, but we just got to hope that he doesn't fumble it away, or if he continues to fumble it away, Gail Benson, like she did with her trust, her team jumps in and cuts them from from underneath. You know what I'm saying? And we move on. That's the only way I feel like the Saints are going to get themselves out of the situation, because to me, Mickey Loomis in a lot of cases is running this team basically on emotion. He's petty. I feel like he's egotistical at times, and I understand that when you're rich, you're successful, you're in a powerful position. Ego plays a huge role at times, but ego should never be to a point where you're jeopardizing the future of the organization and making people feel bad and just looking past individuals just for the simple fact that you want to feel right about something. I just feel like that's selfish. I feel like if you're actually playing ball like that, you shouldn't be in that type of position, because you're becoming way too emotional, and your emotions should never it should never be bigger than the team's needs. And I just think at times Mickey Loomis wanting to be proven to be right, sometimes it takes a front seat to the team's success. And luckily, Gail Benson didn't allow him to do that and do the things that he has done when it came to Dennis Allen, because Dennis Allen would still be the coach if Mickey Loomis had his say-so in the situation. Every quarterback is not Mahomes. Yeah, I think that we look at great quarterback play, and we want all of our quarterbacks to be that Patrick Mahomes, the caliber, the talent, the ability that Patrick Mahomes possesses. But everybody's not going to be him. That's pretty obvious. A great quarterback can overcome a shaky O-line. Yeah, they definitely can, Corey. Great quarterbacks can overcome a lot of situations. They make average players good. They make good players great. I mean, that's what great quarterbacks do. But everybody is not going to have that ability. That basically just, sums up what Barbara was trying to say about Mahomes. Josh, thank you very much for the $2. Says Ben ain't coming. He too bought in Detroit. I don't know, man. I think that he probably is going to end up being a head coach this season, Josh. I think that them knocking on the door of the Super Bowl last season when they went to the NFC Championship game against San Francisco and by all cases should have won that game. They were up 24-7 at halftime, and a lot of people thought that the game was going to be over. And then the 49ers came roaring back in Levi Stadium to go to the Super Bowl. So I think that played a huge role in him coming back. I think that it just made him think, okay, let's give it one more shot. Let's see where we're at. I'm pretty sure that they probably gave him a hefty raise to kind of, compensate for the money that he would have gained if he would have became a head coach. And, there was no need to leave, right? No head coaches head coaching opportunities aren't going anywhere. As a matter of fact, I think that his star is shining even brighter now that they're a much better team than they were last year. And I want to say they won 12 games. So it's not hurting him at all. And I do think that the way that they lost last season played a huge role in him coming back. So I don't think he's going to come back after this season. I think he came back because he wants to try to see if he can actually help the Detroit Lions make it to the Super Bowl. If they don't make it, or if they do make it and lose or make it and win, I think he's gone. But I think he just came back for the simple fact because he wanted to finish the story. He wanted to get his Cody Rhodes going, right? He wanted to finish the story. Right? So I think that played a huge role. Says, I wish Ben would come here. Yeah, I think that Ben Johnson would be a really good head coach for the New Orleans Saints. I mean, I look around and I think about some of the teams that probably are going to need a new head coach. Probably the New York Giants, probably the Jets, maybe the Chicago Bears. Well, not maybe. I think the Chicago Bears going to fire Matt Eberflus. You probably got a couple more teams out here. But I found one very interesting, folks, while I'm thinking about this. And, people have been talking about a coach that has had a lot of success, but, for some apparent reason, like just can't get over that hump. And that is Kyle Shanahan. And right now, the San Francisco 49ers, they aren't looking like the San Francisco 49ers we are accustomed to seeing year after year. Maybe they're having a little bit of fatigue when it comes to Super Bowl hangovers and working so hard to get up to the NFC Championship game and going to those Super Bowls and coming down to one possession games and losing and coming up short. So his name has been out there. I don't know how much validity it has, but if the 49ers just so happen to want to get rid of Kyle Shanahan, hey, bro, I'm just saying, I wouldn't mind Kyle Shanahan coaching the New Orleans Saints. I'm just saying that. Like, if they were to get rid of Kyle Shanahan, which I don't feel like they will, but if there was I guess a scenario that would allow the Saints to get their hands on Kyle Shanahan, I would like Kyle Shanahan as my head coach. I'm just saying. I would like Kyle Shanahan as my head coach. Let's see. Brian Flores, Jesse Minter. Jesse Minter. Thank you. I said Mike Minter. Or Mike Minter was a linebacker? Or maybe Marcus Freeman if he leaves out if Ben Johnson doesn't come to the Saints. Yeah, I mean, look at some of the other guys, but Dalton, to me, man, I just feel like, I feel like I'm copying off people because I've heard this take so many places, but I just think that the Saints need an offensive-minded coach at this point. I think that you had defense and you had that with Dennis Allen. I think that maybe you need to go in a different direction and maybe go with an offensive-minded head coach, and I just think that maybe a guy like Ben Johnson or one of these other offensive-minded guys, like even Lynn Cohen, like Lynn Cohen with Tampa, one of these offensive-minded guys that can actually come in and, help your offense and maybe get yourself a really high-quality defensive coordinator like a Robert Saleh or something like that, that can help alongside, the offensive-minded coach. So, to me, I'm kind of over the defensive coaches right now because you already had that, and I want to see the offense, be able to kind of thrive and be that offense like we used to seeing where the Saints can actually be fun to watch offensively. Let's see. You think the 49ers' offensive success was more Shanahan than Kubiak? It was more Shanahan. It was more Shanahan than Kubiak. It was more Shanahan than Kubiak. I mean, Shanahan has done this everywhere. Barber, he's done it and for the Jets. He's done it for the Redskins, the Denver Redskins. He's done it with the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, he had Matt Ryan winning the MVP for God's sakes. I mean, Brock Purdy. I mean, he has no business being a starting quarterback or being good in the National Football League. I mean, we've seen him do something and help Jimmy Garoppolo go to the Super Bowl. So yeah, I think that it is Kyle Shanahan. You know, he has taken some of the most mediocre quarterbacks of borderline average, below average quarterbacks, and has turned them into something that's legitimate, and I think you have to give him credit. I mean, when people don't realize this, but he was a guy that helped Kirk Cousins. He is a guy that helped RG3 when he won Rookie of the Year. So yeah, I think that is more Kyle Shanahan than it is Clint Kubiak. Says, hell nah, TJ, he can't win the big game and their players stay hurt. Look, all I know is, you can't win the big game if you don't make it to the big game. See, here's the thing, man. Like, I don't know. Like, what would you rather be? Like, would you rather be like sitting on the outside looking into the playoffs or actually being that thing? If I told you that, what would you rather have? Missing the playoffs or going to the playoffs contending with opportunity to win? Because to me, I'd rather go to the playoffs with opportunity to win. And we can talk about him not winning a big one all day, but like I said, that's pretty impressive. This guy has been to 3 Super Bowls, 1 as a coordinator, 2 as a head coach, right? I mean, in some unfortunate circumstances have played a role in him losing both Super Bowls. So to me, look, I'll take Kyle Shanahan in a heartbeat. I ain't worried about no narratives. All I know is the Saints ain't been to the playoffs since 2020. That's what I do know. And right, I feel like this dude is going to give you continuous success. So I would take Kyle Shanahan. And I worry about the yips in big games later. But I tell you what, at least I know I'll be a contender. At least I know I would be flirting with a Super Bowl. I know I wasn't going to be flirting with no Super Bowl with Dennis Allen as my coach. I can tell you that. Want a coach that can light a fire under the players. Been there, done that with the passive head coach. Yep, I'm tired of that. They can have that. Says no coach is going to want to coach the Saints with the salary cap and drafting in the teams. Just stop it. Man, that ain't true. There are only 32 head coaching jobs in the National Football League. To say that nobody of any significance is going to want to coach the Saints, that's ridiculous. And I understand why you're saying that, Corey, once again, because your team's success is basically vying on the ineptitude of the New Orleans Saints. Like, you don't want them to be able to find a coach that can make them a contender. You don't want them to find a coach that can actually make them formidable versus the Atlanta Falcons for years to come. That's understandable. But to say that the same situation is so bad, nobody will want to come here, no, that's not true. And to say that just because they don't get the most highly touted guy means that they won't find a coach that can actually light a fire under this team or be able to coach them and be able to strategize for them to be contenders until they actually get themselves out of this hole. I just think that, that's just wishful thinking. 32 teams are in the National Football League. There are 32 head coaching jobs. And anybody, I don't care what the situation is. Everybody that's a coach and waiting for the most part, a guy that's kind of working themselves up the ranks, has aspirations of being a head coach. I mean, unless you Pete Carmichael. But other than that, I mean, you pretty much want to be a head coach. That's what your aspirations are. I'd rather consistently go to the playoffs than consistently check out of football before Christmas every year. Amen, Derek. You can't win if you ain't in. You can't win if you ain't in. What about Nick Saban being the coach of the New Orleans Saints? Man, all I know is what the Saints need is somebody that's going to provide some energy, somebody that's going to be a leader of men, and somebody that's going to be able to strategize. I just think that the situation that the Saints are going through and are going to be going through over the next few seasons, you need somebody that definitely know what they're doing, because you're going to be relying a lot on strategy and using what you got to be formidable for the next 2 seasons. So I just think that the Saints need a X's and O's guy, and they need a coach, a developer. That's why I say, like, if somebody like Kyle Shanahan like lands on the street, you may not like this, but somebody like Belichick or somebody like John Gruden, who has a reputation of, being able to coach really well, being able to utilize the players that they actually have, that is what you're going to need. Now, you might not like none of these names. And, and like I said, you can probably go with some of these highly touted guys. But if you can't get the highly touted guys, you might want to just take a look at a player, or, a players type coach that can actually get the best out of those guys and help you to be competitive until you get yourselves out of this hole that you dug yourself into with the salary cap over the last couple of years. That is how you're going to get yourself out of this hole. But I mean, there are some guys that can be first timers that I feel like can get you where you need to be. But I think that the Saints may need to take a deep look at some familiar coaches that have had success in the league also. Same situation ain't as bad as people think. Carlton is not as bad as people think because they have some talented players on his football team. They are aging, but they're still good. And you have a solid locker room with guys that are bought in. These guys just want to win at the end of the day. It's not about money in some cases. It's about being successful. When you're thinking about players like Demario Davis and Cam Jordan and Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu has won a Super Bowl, but Cam Jordan and Demario Davis haven't. And now when you start to look at your football immortality, you start to think about, how you're going to be remembered. How are you going to, what type of legacy are you going to leave behind? And, I just think those players are going to be bought in. So, if you can get yourself a coach out there that can, develop some of these young players around some of these leaders, I think that you'll win some football games. But I don't know if the New Orleans Saints going to be able to get that if they get somebody that's just completely inexperienced or untouted guy. But I do want to take this moment and let you all know once again that the State of the Saints podcast is brought to you by BETUS. Sign up today, get up to 150% on your first deposit and up to 125% on your second and third deposit, up to $2,000. You can use the promo code YouTube150. There's several things that you can actually choose from and bet on. Several NFL, NBA games, boxing matchups, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure you check it out. Also, gamble responsibly. Make sure that you are only gambling what you can afford. And also there's numbers and information for those that know someone or if you are dealing with a gambling issue. So make sure that you heed that advice. Don't spend more than you can actually afford. Let's see. Corey says, Carlton, you're right. The Saints are in a great situation. Couldn't be any better. Any names not named Dennis Allen? Yep, I agree with that. Let's see. We just don't need Sean Payton coach's tree. Yeah, I just think that you just need to move on from that, Dalton. I'm not trying to rob a person or a coach out of an opportunity, and I'm pretty sure Aaron Glenn will do a good job. I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Darren Rizzy. Hopefully, he can keep this momentum going. But I just want to see something different, and I think the Saints, they got some players that can actually maybe get over the hump with a coach that can actually see some of that potential in them. Maybe we got it all wrong with guys like Isaiah Foskey. Maybe we're getting it wrong with some of these players that the Saints have drafted, and we're like, man, these dudes ain't done nothing. Maybe we getting it wrong with them. Maybe they just need a different voice, and maybe we were wrong the entire time. Let's see. LOL, Jerry, I wouldn't want anyone with that last name Allen at this point. Yeah, man, anybody named Allen right now, I mean, Marcus Allen, Dennis Allen, Brandon Allen, Kyle Allen. Yeah, well, Josh Allen, we can roll with that, But most Allens, man, you ain't about to do nothing with, all right. So all I'm saying is, you just need to go in a different direction. Do you think Zach Taylor should be fired? I think Zach Taylor should have been fired years ago. The reason why Taylor wasn't fired, Dalton, is because he got Joe Burrow as his quarterback. Joe Burrow is saving that man's job. He's saving his job. I never thought Zach Taylor was a good coach. I never like you go back in the archives, and I'm pretty sure you probably got like a monologue of me saying Zach Taylor is good as Joe Burrow, last game. That's what he is. He's not a good coach. So should he be fired? Yes. Do I think he would be fired? Probably not, because that's not how the Bengals organization work. They got that Mickey Loomis type patience. So I can't see him getting fired. I can see them maybe like getting another defensive coordinator, but I don't see him getting fired. Let's see. I think Ben Johnson, Joe Brady, the best option for the Saints. I don't know about Joe Brady, man. I mean, I don't know, man. I'm not really that sold on Joe Brady. I understand that he has that reputation for, being an integral part of that 2019 LSU team where they just was one of the greatest offenses in college football history. But I don't know, man. I don't know if Joe Brady has what it takes just yet. I still feel like he has some growing to do. Maybe another 2 or 3 years. Maybe we can have that conversation. But right now, I don't think that he will be a good head coach. Not at this stage. I think that he's starting to kind of find his groove. But I think that maybe a few more years of some success with Josh Allen in Buffalo, maybe he will be more highly touted. But I still think he has some growing to do before we give him a head coaching opportunity. Stop drafting players that are hurt before they even see the pro field. Yeah, I mean, that could start. I mean, the same drafting on potential. Like, you need to draft on individuals that can make that impact right now. That's what you need to be focused on. I know it probably won't happen, but it would be something if they were able to get Ben Johnson. Well, I mean, I wouldn't even say that it wouldn't happen. I think there's a possibility. I think that what the Saints offer, the fact that the Saints don't have a meddling front office, the fact that they will allow him to do what he needs to do in order for the team to be successful without much blowback. I can make an argument for teams like New York where it's shark-infested waters. You got meddling general managers, you got meddling front office guys, you got meddling owners. Like it's kind of hard, for me to make a compelling argument for that. I mean, the fact that maybe you're coaching in New York, that's a plus, but I don't know, man. I can make an argument to say that, I mean, a lot of guys just want to be able to do their job without all of the blowback and all of the interruptions, There's not many distractions in New Orleans. Like, yeah, you'll probably have some people with some things to say, but it's not like in the same category as a high, like one of those big media market teams like New York. It's not like that, right? They things can be going perfect and they still gonna have some guy that's trying to find reasons to write a hit piece. Like I don't know, man. So I wouldn't say that he wouldn't want to come here. I can make an argument to say that it can be a good place for him because everything is kind of like even kill and you ain't got to worry. All you got to do is focus on just putting a good product on the field. So, and you don't have the big media market impatient fans that are out there that just gets on my nerves, man. Like seriously, like I just don't understand it, man. I don't understand like some of them big market teams, man. They just built different. They mind frame different. Like they be born people that got 4 and 5 Super Bowls. I'm like, what is y'all doing, man? Guys that have won MVPs and multiple success stories, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, multiple championship, multiple. I don't get it, man. I don't know. They just like booing or they just known for booing. So we going to give people what they know that we going to give them. I don't know what it is, man. I'm talking about for a coach like Ben Johnson to come in is not like the Giants, Raiders, or the Titans. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the Raiders, that would be a good spot for them, in Vegas. I can see that, I mean, probably going to end up having a quarterback, probably going to end up getting Shadur Sanders or one of those other quarterbacks that's going to be coming out. So I can see him, trying to build a team with his quarterback. That would be a good spot for him. Foskey's the no sack man. I mean, could be the reason, he was being held back. What about Mickey Loomis coaching this team? That would be funny, man. If Mickey Loomis start coaching the Saints, I'm out, man. We going gumbo pot full time, 24/7. All right. I ain't about to waste my time or your time, producing those State of the Saints podcast episodes. That when the Saints have officially told me that they quit. All right. If you make Mickey Loomis your head coach, no way. That's when we going gumbo pot full time. We going gumbo pot full time if that happens. What's up, TJ? Got here a little bit late, but are we good? Who that, baby? What's going on, Hector? Thank you for being here, man. Appreciate it. Says Brian, I'm going to kick you out the chat for cussing. Yeah, man, no cursing in the chat, please. Let's see. Corey says, as long as the Saints keep winning and are not drafting in the top 5 this year, I'll sleep better. Yeah, I mean, that is that great debate that's going on. Do you want to see the Saints win and, try to make a run at this, or do you want to see them set themselves up for even more failure by drafting in the teens? I don't know, man. I mean, I do want to see them get a high draft pick. I wouldn't mind that. But based on what I've seen from the draft process, what confidence do I have in the front office to make the right decision, even if they got a top 5, top 10 draft pick? The Saints don't have a Jerry Jones type of ownership. No, they don't. They don't have a Jerry Jones type ownership. Now they got a Jerry Jones type general manager and executive vice president in Mickey Loomis, but luckily he's not the owner of this football team. And I just think fans needed to see that from Gayle Benson, because a lot of us had that mind frame and thought pattern that Gayle Benson would just up here, on some Princess Diana, Princess of Wales stuff, where she's just out there on a golf cart, just waving at people and smiling and, just out there in them streets. But, I think that when people saw that she jumped in ahead of Mickey Loomis and did what was best for the organization, I think that she won a lot of Saints fans over, and it made a lot of Saints fans kind of breathe a sigh of relief that she is willing to go there if need be. I just think that if things go awry, I feel like we should have the confidence in Gayle Benson to jump in once again and make the necessary decisions to help this football team. So that was positive. Every team in NFL draft go off potential. There are no sure things in any draft. Even the greats were selected off potential. I mean, yeah, that is true, Dolph. There's no guarantees that you're going to, become a sensation. I mean, I don't care if you want a Davey O'Brien, the Heisman Trophy, the Belinda Koff, the Chuck Bednarik, the Remington. I don't care what you want. Teams draft you based on some of those accolades or the potential or you being runner up or et cetera, but it's up to you as a player to live up to said potential. But what we can say when it comes to the Saints, Dolph, is the selection and the decision making around the selections has been spotty, to say the least. And you don't want to continue to do those things, right? I mean, we want the vote of confidence in these guys, right? I mean, we want to give them that. But when you're constantly, for the most part, whiffing on these draft picks and these guys are not giving you what you actually need, it becomes a little bit of a head scratcher. And you can have the patience of Job, but you got to be able to hit it out of the park, especially what the Saints are dealing with over the next couple of years. Like I said, there's no margin for error. I feel like other teams, if they whiff, they have an opportunity to kind of correct what has been incorrect, probably because their salary cap situation is okay. So that way they can kind of, absolve themselves by maybe drafting early or maybe adding a guy in free agency. When you're in a situation like the New Orleans Saints, when when you're dealing with cap issues, you got these long-term deals, these phantom deals that are still on your books. You got to make the right decisions. Like, you got to, man, you like, if you're in a home run derby and you get 10 swings at it, you got to be hitting at least 8 of them out the park, because that is the only way you're going to get yourself out of this situation. You have to think harder, and you got to be a little bit more strategic than some of these other organizations out here, because you can't afford to fail. One false step, and we are picking in the top 5 consistently. And we are very upset about the direction of this football team. So all I'm saying is you can't afford to do that. Like, other teams can. Other teams can afford to make mistakes, especially if they have the salary cap to absorb said mistakes. The Saints don't have that. You got to be virtually perfect. You got to be driving 10-2 on this highway for the next 2 years. Because if you fall asleep at the wheel one time, guess what? I mean, you are going to veer off this road very easily, right? I mean, you got to be 10-2, because this road is icy, okay? You can't be speeding across this bridge. You got to make sure that you 10-2, steady at a moderate speed. That is what you got to be. Because if you're not, then guess what? You're going to find yourself in a difficult situation, and you're going to really feel like you're in purgatory. Let's see. No point in tanking because the team is too talented for it not to look obvious. Yeah, I mean, you got to do some things like, the Giants did, like making Tommy DeVito the fourth string quarterback, your starting quarterback, right? You got to, not throw Malik Neighbors to football, into the second half. You got to do stuff like that, right? You got to basically tank without saying that you're tanking, right? I mean, everybody kind of indicating, but plausible deniability here. We feel like Tommy DeVito has some promise. Okay. Let's say TJ, what you think about possibly drafting let me see, Karan Drones in this year's draft? Well, let me see who this is, as a matter of fact, because I'll be honestly just giving you I have to get back to you on that one. I have to take a look at some of his. I'm not familiar with his game. I'm not familiar with his game. I'm gonna have to take a look at it at the end, but I'm not familiar with the guy. As a matter of fact, probably at the end of this show, I'll take a look at him and I'll give you an honest assessment of him. I mean, 6'2", 231 pounds. I don't know about his stat line this season. Let me see. He played in 9 games, started all 9. He's 5-4. He's let me see. He has a 60% completion percentage, 1,562 yards, 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He also rushed for 6 touchdowns. So he has a total of 12 touchdowns 16 touchdowns on the season, 10 passing, 6 rushing. I have to get back to you on that one, man. I have to take a look at him because I'm gonna be honest with you. I ain't familiar with homie game. Let's see, Cartel. If they drag Deion the way they do his players, are going to get some hate too. Well, look, I mean, Deion Sanders, I have to give him credit. He has done a good job this season at building up that program. They were 4-8 last year. Now they flirting with the Big 12 championship. And, they got some talented guys on that football team. No doubt about that. Let's see. Yeah, the Saints should just pick last because draft positions don't matter anyway. And you're going to make sure the Saints think. Saints should draft Will Johnson or Mason Graham or Starks from Georgia. Yeah, I mean, look, you can't go wrong with a Georgia Bulldog. Those guys have been really good. I mean, we're seeing what Nakobe Dean and Jalen Carter are doing out in, doing out there in Philly. I mean, there's some talented guys. I mean, the Slater, the offensive lineman, he's playing really well. But I mean, you got to go with some guys that have played on a high level. Played in some of those big games, the bright lights, they're used to it. yeah, let they need to like get some guys that's going to hit the ground running. Yeah, no more project guys. Like Derek is alluding to. He said no projects or little engines that could peak. Yeah, I mean you can't afford to do that. Like I said, it's got to be 10-2 on this icy road that you're on right now. One false move and you sliding down the highway uncontrollably, and you don't want to do that. Mike Vrabel, yeah, Mike Vrabel, would be a good pick, but I don't know. I don't see him coming to New Orleans. Let's see. Now be disrespectful to me, Brian Peterson. What are we talking about? What happened? What Brian doing? Man, what are we doing, man? Come on, man. Let's not be arguing in the chat, man. Y'all chill out with all that. All right, come on, man. Come on, everybody, just be respectful to one another. We don't want that, man. Everybody's opinion is valued, and we can expound, and we don't have to use profanity and curse words and talk about each other and all that, man. We better than that. All right. We can carry ourselves in a dignified manner. We can expound on our thought patterns and our feelings and our views, in a respectful way that's respectful to everybody. Let's see. Y'all get them likes up. I agree with that, man. Look, if you enjoy the show and the content, I just ask that you hit the like button. I would really appreciate that. But I do want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. I really do appreciate it. Much love to each and every one of you. For those that are traveling this holiday week, be careful out there, man. Make sure you stay focused, and enjoy yourself. I hope that you have fun with your family and your friends. And for those that aren't driving, just make sure that you do have a great, holiday. We'll be back before then, but it just so happens if you don't catch me live, again, just want to say happy Thanksgiving to you. We'll be back later on in the week to kind of break down the Saints versus the Rams. We'll get into a couple press conferences by interim coach Darren Rizzy, some of the players' thoughts and views on coming off that bye week and how that can affect this team going up against the Rams. We'll have all that for you right here on the State of the Saints podcast, so keep it locked. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, youtube.com, search The State of the Saints podcast. And I'm also available on Blue Sky as well as X under the same name, TJAY Jones 8. Shouts out to everybody that has been following me on Blue Sky, just trying to grow, that. I mean, I haven't been on there very long. So if you did join Blue Sky, you can hit me up at TJAY Jones 8. Also, the NFC South Roundtable, man. Make sure that you check that out. We just recorded a live stream. If you're actually watching this on a Tuesday, we do it every Tuesday at 7 p.m. We break down the matchups in the NFC South, talk about the games. I think you all enjoy it. It's been a pleasure and a treat trying to help that channel grow and being a part of that network. Really enjoying that. And also, you can subscribe to that channel to help that channel grow as well. Shouts out to everybody in the chat for your comments. Shouts out to everybody at home. Really do appreciate you viewing and checking this out. And until next time, all I got to say is, who dat?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.